right, we are finally doing it. We are starting my summer composition project. So, I wrote this piece in high school at sometime between sophomore and junior year. I started part of it and then left it to the side and then finished it later. And I think it has some really great ideas, and I want to fix it up, make it great, and essentially rewrite it for better instrumentation and all that. Now that I have some more experience about composition and music theory and all that. So in front of me is what I wrote in high school, and I'm going to play a little bit of it as I begin the process of rewriting it. So here is the first section of The Faith. All right. So my goal for this episode or video or whatever is to try to at least get the base down for what I want this first section of my rewritten version to be. And whether it looks pretty much the same structurally to this, I don't know, but that's what we're going to be doing. And there's a couple of things here I like, such as like this little motif here, this it's I don't know, it's kind of eerie and I like it. And then eventually it develops into this larger theme, as we can see in the combination of these parts. And eventually it sort of becomes its own theme, as you can see here. And I don't know, I think even without knowledge of how to develop a motive, I sort of got a bit of that there. And I'd like to keep that same sort of essence in my new version, but add a little more interest to it, because I think it can get a little bit repetitive and boring at times, even in this first section. So I think it's time to start a new project, and let's begin. All right, so I've been recording for quite some time, and I just decided to check if all my footage was coming out nice, and that's when I realized I didn't set it up so that you could see both scores. So let me walk you through what I've done so far. First of all, I have my score. It's a lot of instruments: piccolo, 2 flutes, 2 oboes, 2 clarinets, and a bass clarinet, 4 saxophones, and a bassoon. Those are our wins. We got 4 horns, 2 trumpet, 2 trombone, a euphonium, and a tuba, timpani and general percussion, a piano, and a full string section. So that's what we're working with. So now let's get into the nitty gritty. Our original opens with this melody that you can see right over here. Wait, right here. This melody in the clarinet. And it starts with this chord progression that you can hear. And I'm just going to play the whole thing so you can hear the chords. It starts with a C minor chord, and then it lowers the fifth and makes it diminished. And it sounds like this. And you get that really crunchy second chord. What I did is I went ahead and added that chord in all of the lower voices of all of the sections. So we have bass clarinets and bassoons and the bari sax, and then the low brass, the timpani, and the low strings, and they're all playing this two chord progression and alternate between the two chords simply by lowering the fifth. And what I've done is I've added that melody, elongated, stretched it out, made it fill the whole bar, and I put that in the horns. And so far, this is what it's sounding like. I already love it. I love how the horn soars over all the other low instruments, and it's not even that much higher than some of these instruments. So what I want to do is repeat those last four bars and just make them a little more special, maybe add in some more instruments, and I'll come back to you when it's done. All right, we're starting to get somewhere. I have expanded it a little bit, and let's walk through it. So, first of all, I added a little bit of a harmony and some more voices to the melody. The harmony together with the main melody sounds like this. Just adding up the next scale degree above what the main melody is playing, and it just adds a little more texture. And I added that little motif that was in the timpani before, and again elongated it. And it's very subtle, but it sounds like this. Again, very subtle, and I just think it adds a little something more, so it's not just a sustained pedal tone in the timpani. And finally, what I did is I added some shorter notes in the violins, and they're playing essentially arpeggiations of whatever chord that is in the measure, but they're playing slightly differently, so their texture kind of interweaves weirdly, and I think it sounds pretty cool. And that sounds like this. All of these voices together with the saxophones and the clarinets that I added sounds like this. So we're starting to build, and we don't have too many more voices to add. We just have the flute, piccolo, and oboe. The main percussion, which I should probably add in to some of this stuff anyway, and the piano. So I feel like we're almost there, but we're not quite as tense as I want it to be before we really explode into the main melody. So I'm going to keep working and I'll update you guys when I have something I really like and we're ready to do that big explosion. All right, we have made quite a bit of progress. I have expanded this quite a bit. So let me talk you through what I have done. First of all, I added a new percussion part. I realized I want bass drum and snare and cymbals basically going at the same time. For percussionists, a timpanist, snare, bass, and cymbals, maybe. All right, the next thing I did is I continued this theme of these faster and more like I don't know, more pulsing rhythms, you know. So I already had the violins playing this fun melody. I added a quarter note pulse in the piano's left hand and doubled the violins in the right hand. And since it's at quarter note equals 60, those quarter note pulses are once a second. So it creates this nice kind of ticking clock feel. Something you see in a lot of, like, for instance, Hans Zimmer's film music and Time and Mountains from Interstellar. Love that feel and I wanted to try it. So here it is. On top of that, we have the bass and snare drum here playing this quarter note and then 2/16, and that sounds like this. And altogether, those rhythms really drive the piece and gives it some more life and some more motion. And then on top of that, I just started really orchestrating it. Oh, almost forgot. I added the piccolo part, really speeding it up right here at the end, the last 4 bars. Really gives it some really heavy motion right at the end. On top of that, I added some cymbal whooshes into each section just to keep it going and so it doesn't drag on those long whole notes as much. So let's give it a listen, shall we? Here we go. I think it's pretty cool. And right at the end, you heard the trombones, both trombones and the euphonium, switch over to this B, which of course is the leading tone in C harmonic minor. It creates a little bit of tension, and I believe it also makes that chord a. Hold on, I got this. It's a weird chord. I was gonna say a half diminished, but I think that top interval is larger than a major third. It's a weird chord. I don't know exactly what it is. If someone wants to let me know, that would be great. Very tense. Love it. It really pushes right into what will be that explosion that we get in the first version. Granted, the first version didn't explode that much, but I want to make this huge. I think it's time to do that. Oh, one other thing I wanted to talk about before we get into that. This last cymbal. I wrote this last cymbal roll right here, and I put it on mezzo forte. For some reason, this instrument has weird definitions of what these volumes are for all the percussion instruments and stuff. But it made this really large feeling that it was gonna get big, and I realized, it kind of feels cool. It's like, oh, now it's gonna happen. Not quite. And it gives us a little bit more time until we actually explode 4 bars later, right over here. So I guess it's time to figure out exactly how I am going to do that. And we are done, at least with a first draft. Right here, these 4 measures is the big explosion that you saw in the first version. It's just a bit more epic. I mean, first of all, more instruments, but also more things happening. So first of all, we have our main melody in the trumpets and the horns. This I don't believe has changed other than in the last 2 measures I added a little bit of a harmony. And this melody sounds like this. It's pretty epic. Somebody please let me know if let me take it out of concert pitch. If this note is doable for a trumpet. MuseScore says it does, but sometimes it lies. So if you play trumpet pretty well and you can hit that note, let me know. I think it sounds pretty good. Secondly, I wrote a little bit of counter melody kind of based on this theme that we saw in the upper woodwinds here. And it was in the timpani earlier, and I kept it in the timpani and some of the upper, sort of the saxes and the upper strings and piano. And that melody sounds, I'll just play the saxes, like this, with a harmony. So we have two sort of interweaving parts that fit nicely together. And then we have our texture, and that's, of course, these 30-second notes in the upper woodwinds. It's essentially double time of what the piccolo had in the 4 measures prior. And then right at the end here, it does a little bit of an arpeggiation thing, which sounds really cool. So, and this sounds a little bit like this. Just a little bit of texture to keep things moving and growing further from what I had before. And then, of course, we still have a couple of long tones. And what I did here is, so the first however many measures before this, the entire thing, were 2 chords. It was C and C diminished. These 4 bars move up a fifth to the dominant of C minor, which is G, and it does a G minor chord, which is a little weird for a minor key, and a G diminished chord. I don't actually know if this is technically in C minor. I don't know. It's something a little weird is going on with this, but the main thing is I moved up a fifth, and the chords here are a G minor chord and G diminished, but I've omitted the third, so it's just an open fifth and a diminished fifth, or a tritone. And this sounds like this. Just a little bit of tension, but it's not a full chord, so it's a lot more open than the earlier parts were. And then finally, just some rhythmic stuff in the percussion. Of course, the timpani has the counter melody that I mentioned before, but the percussion sounds like this. Now, I like this altogether, but there are definitely things I want to change, and I'm just trying to figure out how to. So I'm just gonna let it sit for a while, and I'll change it later on. I think now's a good time to play the whole thing, what we have so far, and so you can really feel the build up. And what I've come to realize is I'm starting to feel like this first section feels like you're entering a storm, or a storm's approaching you. So at the very beginning, you can just kind of see the dark gray clouds in the distance. And then as this melody starts coming in, you can hear the rain start coming in. And then all this rhythmic stuff down here starts coming in, and the rain starts pouring over you. And then you reach this first climactic moment, and it's really starting to get thundery and really pretty brutal. And then right here, everything is going crazy. The storm is right on top of you. And what's coming next is the eye of the storm, the calm. And it's still a storm, so it's going to be pretty dark. But it's going to be calm and open, and a lot of solo moments. And you'll see that in probably the next video. So, without further ado, listen for all that stuff I just mentioned. But here is our first draft of the first section of the rewrite of the Fates. I think today, and well, it's a new day, but I think it has been quite a successful start to this project, and I'm excited to continue the draft, get the next section going, and everything past that, and then tidy everything up, add some more sophistication, and yeah, I have enjoyed the beginning of this project. Is what I'm trying to say, and I hope this is enjoyable to watch, see my thought process, and not just see the perfect final outcome that most people show. Um, that's what I want to do with this: is show my process, show the imperfection before the perfection with my music, and show you how much a piece can grow. That being said, I'd appreciate suggestions. If you have anything you're thinking could sound cool, write a comment, let me know, and I'll think about it and maybe include it. I'm very open to suggestions, and I would like them because I'm just myself right now. It's over the summer. It's just my project. Um, Additionally, if you are enjoying this and you like to see more of this content, watch the rest of this piece and whatever comes after, um, please consider subscribing. I feels weird to say, but it would be good to show more people that might want to see this content and get the algorithm to give it to those people that want to see this. Also, please bear with me. I'm still trying to figure out my setup. I'm not working with much equipment. It's literally just my laptop. My camera is my laptop's camera and this microphone, which isn't even mine. So I'm still trying to tune in some settings, make everything look and sound great. So I apologize for the poor audio quality on this video, and I will work on it for the future. So that being said, I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.